Hey, it's Kim Komando today, your daily podcast to keep you up to date with all things digital and beyond. And I'd love to have you be a part of our podcast. You can make an appointment to speak with me. Just head over to Komando.com, and on the top right, there's a button that says Email Kim. Fill that out, and that's it. How about we start today with a little fun fact? Okay, get this. Bing has crossed 100 million daily active users. Let me tell you, that's something I thought I would never, ever say. 100 million daily active users over at Bing. This is just 1 month after the launch of its chatbot AI being totally integrated into that search site, so you can ask it to plan a dinner party, write a book, solve a problem, even some personal problems like drama in the family. Now, there's one thing that we should never, ever forget. Okay, up until now, Microsoft had to give people money, rewards cards, just to use Bing. So you always want to watch out for the underdog, especially one that has a ton of money, which reminds me of this old joke. A guy from New Jersey bought a search engine and some fireworks. Okay, a guy from New Jersey bought a search engine and some fireworks. So you could say that he bada bing, bada boom. Yes, and on that happy note, welcome. It's the Kim Komando Show. I am, of course, America's beloved digital goddess, Kim Komando, here with you once again. We're so happy and honored that you decided to spend some time with all of us. And if you're a new listener, we're so glad that you're here. And if you're a regular listener, hey, welcome back, because you're about ready to get more tech smarts, because every single thing is now a tech thing. Isn't that the truth? Hey, listen, you can find my award-winning show on over 425 top stations across the United States. We're streaming in your favorite radio app, and you can find us streaming as a podcast, as a webcast, 24/7 over at getkim.com, where there's a free 30-day trial. And, of course, we offer discounts for seniors, service personnel, teachers, active military, and vets. And speaking of our military, you can hear us on the American Forces Network Radio, serving more than 375,000 American servicemen and women in 175 countries and 200 ships at sea. Get the Kim Komando Show. Hey, by the way, AFN, they've been operational since 1942. Isn't that amazing? I'm sure you have at least a few questions that I can lend a hand to, and our T-Mobile Unlimited listener line is now open at 1-888-825-5254 is the way to join us. And just a quick reminder, if you're just too shy to come on a big-time show and podcast, I get that. You can always drop me your questions over at Komando.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, there's a link that says Email Kim. And this way, I can make sure that I read every single question that you have for me. Again, that's over on our website. All right, every single day, let me tell you, I drop by at least 30 different sites, so that this way you don't have to, and I can bring you up to date on all things digital. And this is part of the show where I like to talk about the top 5 newsy type of stories that I think you need to know about. And we're going to begin with the lowest of the low. Seriously, how could anybody do this and then sleep at night? Let me tell you straight up, these Russian hackers, they posted naked pictures of cancer patients on the dark web. What? Yes. They did this because a Pennsylvania hospital refused to pay their ransom. And I can't say what I want to call them because this is a family-friendly show, but here's the deal. Back in February, the Lehigh Valley Health Network is a collection of Pennsylvania hospitals. They noticed some suspicious activity on their network, and then they received a ransom note from Black Cat. It's a Russian hacking group that's notorious for making these inhumane requests from the folks that it hacks. Well, in their ransom note, Black Hat said that they had information including patient data, passports, personal information, questionnaires, and even nude photos of the cancer patients that were taken during hospital visits. Wow. Lehigh Valley Health Network refused to pay these lowlifes their ransom, and the Russian hackers posted the photos all on the dark web. No word yet on how the hackers got into the hospital network. There used to be a code of ethics with hackers that they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't hack into hospitals or anything like that. I know. Ethics and hackers, that doesn't really go hand in hand. All right, let's go on to number 2. Where is the nearest unemployment office? A few weeks ago, I talked about which jobs AI puts most at risk, but ChatGPT's impact has caused me and a lot of others to rethink about what's going on with jobs in the future. Well, Princeton University believes that there are at least 20 occupations most at risk before AI. And here's a shocker. Many are high-paying jobs that also require a significant education. Now, of course, call center workers are at the highest risk of being replaced by AI. And I'm not talking about telemarketers. I'm talking about businesses like Uber and Lyft and Spotify, banks, cable, phone, credit card, power companies, things like that. And then also we have the actuaries, staples of the insurance and banking industry. Budget analysts, accountants are next to lose their jobs as our teachers in history, geography, religion, sociology, and English. So the challenge for all of us right now is to stand out, be your very best, become irreplaceable, and learn as much about AI as you possibly can. Okay, coming up on number 3, an update on the communist China spy app TikTok. Their threat to America is so great that both liberals and conservatives have come together to ban the app. And this past week, Congress advanced a bill to give President Biden the power to completely ban TikTok. Now, of course, we all know ByteDance is TikTok's parent company, located where? In Beijing, and they're required by the Chinese law to hand over all the data that it collects on everybody to the Chinese Communist Party. So the National Security Agency director told the Senate Armed Forces Committee yesterday that he's concerned over the data that TikTok has already collected and the influence it wields over, say, 150 million Americans are on TikTok now. Wow, isn't that crazy? Meanwhile, TikTok has launched what's called Project Clover. It's an attempt to convince European nationals that it's harmless. We don't spy on anybody. We're not doing that. It's just another lie. So why is suicide illegal in China? Always remember this. Why is suicide illegal in China? They call it destruction of government property. We don't want to go there. All right, coming up on number 4, e-bikes are exploding. This past week, a New York apartment building caught fire and burnt down. Nothing left. What started it? A damaged battery of an electric bike. Last year in New York City, there's been a report of 216 bike batteries just blowing up. 40 people have been injured. 2 people have died. So what's with all the fires? Well, we think of bikes as being rugged. We can do a whole bunch of things with that. Not so much with an e-bike. You have to be protective of it. You can't jump over curbs and run into things with an e-bike because you have a lithium-ion battery on the inside. If that gets any sort of damage, you run the risk of short-circuiting, and it's just getting too hot, and that leads to something called thermal runaway. And if that happens, your bike's toast. So here's the solution. Take care of your bike. If you run into something, check the battery. And coming soon, we do have fire-resistant batteries on the way, but they're not quite here yet. So be sure that you don't leave your electric bike plugged in all the time, too. And I don't know if you heard about the guy who got hit by the same e-bike every morning. Do you know that? It's a vicious cycle. Thank you very much. Stay for the desserts. All right, this coming in at number 5, you're not going to believe it, but come with me to the state of Florida. There's an old saying that no one's life, liberty, or property is safe while the legislature is in session. So for proof, all we have to do is let's all go to Florida. And in the Florida Senate, a Republican senator by the name of Jason Brodier has introduced a bill, listen to this, that would require bloggers, that's just about anybody who writes anything on the internet, who write about the governor, bloggers that write about the attorney general or members of the legislature, which does include the good old senator, to register with the state, or the bloggers are going to face stiff fines. So, should this moronic bill pass into law, it would immediately be ruled as unconstitutional. Why? The First Amendment is clear. No government body can stop free speech, right? Now, Brodier, not saying anything, is a University of Florida graduate, great school. His degree is in food and resource economics. I looked this up, and he's working on his master's in public health. I think he needs to take a class or two on the U.S. Constitution right there. You know, Florida may be the sunshine state, but clearly it's not always the brightest state. All right, coming up in just a few minutes, we are going to talk about some tax scams that are making the rounds and also how you can file your taxes on your tablet or your phone. Later on, the secret tracking map that is following you wherever you go. And of course, we have all of your fantastic phone calls, and you have me. You don't want to miss that, right? Kim Komando. Hey, our T-Mobile Unlimited listener line is now open at 1-888-825-5254 is the way to join us. And just a quick reminder that if you're not getting our free email newsletters, some big news. We're making some major changes. And some of those changes include no ads in the newsletters. What? Okay, just two ads. Let's see. How about you can read all the article inside the newsletter instead of having to click to the side? Yes, because you have said all these things and we have listened, and we worked very diligently over the last 3 to 4 months to make sure our newsletters are going to be up to par with what you want and expect. And so head over to komando.com/subscribe right now and pick the newsletters that you want. Once again, that's komando.com/subscribe. Hey, but speaking of newsletters, we've been talking about a little bit here on the show and also on our Friday podcast about newsletters. And, I know how powerful newsletters are firsthand. And a lot of people have been dropping me questions like, how do I get a newsletter and what is the best day of the week? So let's talk about the best day of the week. The best day of the week to send out a newsletter is actually Tuesday, with Wednesday and Thursday far behind, because that's when people have more time, which, speaking of time, that local time is super important too. So the best time to send out those newsletters anytime between, say, 9 and 11 a.m. when they get it, or 3 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And open rates are always super important on email marketing too. You want at least 40%. And I'm so proud to say that our open rate is over 60%, which is amazing. So if you don't get our newsletters, once again, that address, komando.com/subscribe. Join us today is a woman by the name of Jocelyn Cronin. Now, she unfortunately fell prey to one of the most heartless scams that I've ever heard of. And I've heard of a lot of them, trust me. So today, Jocelyn is here to tell her story so that this way we can all stay safe. And Jocelyn, thanks for joining us. We're so glad that you're here. Tell us about your husband. What was he like?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to tell my story. My husband was a firefighter for over 30 years in Redwood City in California, and we were married for 32 years, and I lost him on November 6th, 2019. And I miss him. And I just wanted to honor him in some way or, do something. So that's how I ended up falling prey to the ashes scam.
So how did the scam start?
Well, I was on TikTok. I have on TikTok, you kind of reach out to the communities that involve you, and widows and widowers is where I kind of landed. And I had commented on somebody that was going to be going to honor her husband in Hawaii by sending the box of ashes out to sea. And I commented, what a lovely idea. Well, that snagged me, because then they turned around and they saw that comment. That's what they wanted me to do. And they offered to, for free, make a portrait, a picture using John's ashes and gift it to me. So what happened is they want me to send his ashes. They said I had to send all of his ashes. So I sent all of my ashes to an address in Woodstock, Georgia.
So far, it seems like it might be legit because you're not sending the ashes to Nigeria or India or some weird place like that. Okay, so we're going to Woodstock, Georgia. Okay.
Yes, and they said that they would use some of the ashes, and they'd send the rest back to me. Then the next thing they did was they sent me a message saying, I got a contract out of the country. I got a big contract out of the country. I'll finish up your picture. Oh, and I actually said to them, please do not rush it. Don't worry. Don't hurry on my account. I'm okay. I'll wait until you get back. Okay. And she then, I'm thinking this is a she. She then says to me, I don't like to hold anybody's ashes. So I'm under the impression that and then she told me the picture was finished. So I'm under the impression that she's finished my picture and now is going out of the country. I got a call that following Saturday morning from a robotic-type voice, and I answered it. And they said, did you check your email? I told you needed to keep checking your email. So I got up out of bed, I went and checked my email, and it was the Nigerian Customs email that said, we have seized your loved one's ashes and portrait. That is illegal. And if you want them back, you have to pay $3,772. Right then, I knew I had been scammed. And I went right back to the text message and I said, you scammed me. And then they said, we're not a scam. We're not a scam. I have all these text messages from them, pages of it. But they said, no, we're not a scam. Then they told me they would pay $1,500 if I paid the rest. I said, I am not giving you one penny. I know this is a scam. I'm not giving you a penny. And then they went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally, they were threatening me that if I didn't, before they threatened me, I went on TikTok and I felt like I had to make the video alerting people to the scammers. Mm-hmm. Then that next day, and in that video, I showed that I had some ashes in John's urn because that's what we took to the memorial. So they didn't literally get all of my ashes.
All of them.
And I put that on the TikTok video. But the next day, I got a message from the scammer that said, saw your TikTok video, and they sent me a screenshot of John's picture from the video and the ashes that, I showed in the video. And they said, I see that you didn't send all the ashes. I freaked, and I called the Petaluma where I live. I called the Petaluma PD at that point because I was kind of in fear that they were going to come to my home and steal the rest.
Sure. I mean, you don't know what they're going to be up to next, right?
No. And that scared me. And to feel like you're being stalked is really scary.
It's very frightening. It's very frightening because you don't know who they are, where they're coming from, who they know, and now they're, it's really not hard to find anybody anymore. What did the police say?
The police were really lovely. I mean, they said they'd never heard of this before. He actually talked to his sergeant for me, and they didn't see a crime because I'm like, didn't they kidnap my husband's ashes? Aren't they holding him for ransom? Isn't there a crime in here somewhere? But
there's got to be something.
Yeah, they didn't see a literal crime, but they were so lovely. They talked amongst themselves and called me back, and he said he would send a patrol car out to my cul-de-sac, to keep me safe. I'm like, I didn't want them to feel like they had to come out and protect me because I really felt like it freaked me out, believe me, or I wouldn't have called them, And I also went back and forth calling the Woodstock police because I wanted them to go out to the address that I sent the ashes to and find out who the middleman was.
I was just going to ask you if you were able to pull that address up and to see who that person is.
Yes. And the Woodstock Police Department told me that they were going to go out. And Petaluma PD told me that's called a walk and knock. So, yeah, I assumed they were going to go walk out, go to the house, knock on the door and say, what the hell is going on? Well, he never called me back. The cop never called me back.
It's really hard to imagine that a scammer would take advantage of a woman who just lost her husband, right? Well, here's the deal. We need to take a quick break because we have to pay some bills over here at the Kim Komando Show. That's right. So stay right where you are. You're not going to believe what the scammer did next. It's unbelievable. Here's a spoiler. It has to do with flushing her husband's ashes down the toilet. Wow. I mean, these scammers will go to any length to try to steal from you. And that's the other thing you always want to remember. Stop and think. Don't click that link. Hey, stay right where you are. We have more coming up. All right, if you're just joining us, we are in the middle of a conversation with Jocelyn. Wow. When her firefighter husband passed away in 2019, she was obviously very distraught. She turned to TikTok for support, but what she found there were fraudsters and scammers just looking to exploit her grief and steal from her. Okay, so then what happened next, Jocelyn?
I kept getting email or text messages from the stalkers saying the next thing they were going to do was send me, if I didn't send them the money, they were going to send me a picture of him flushing my husband's ashes. And he had sent me a picture of what looked like the ashes I sent to John.
Oh, my gosh.
Sent to him, which I knew they were not because they had a number on the bag. And John's got a tag in his box where the ashes were, and the tag number didn't match.
Okay, good.
Now, the man in Georgia said, this is what really bothers me. You're talking about mail fraud. We're talking about accepting something that looks like ashes and not calling the police. This is what I don't get. There's a 64-year-old man that lives at that address. Because when the cops went out there, they ended up getting another person's ashes back. They were down by his feet or something. But he has said he threw all the other ones, or threw mine away. The thing is, if I got something in the mail that didn't belong to me and it looked like human remains,
yes.
I would call the police.
Yes.
And the other thing is, if he went to the post office, like he said, and it was too expensive to mail them back, why didn't the post office call the police?
You have a lot of unanswered questions here.
These are ashes, for God's sakes.
I mean, if I get something misdelivered to me, I take it over to my neighbor's house, or I put a note on it and said, not at this address. And Ellen, the post gal, she'll take it away. it's hard to
Exactly. So
speculate.
why did he keep it?
But it's hard to speculate. But, I would make sure that you also
Yeah.
file a complaint over at the Internet Crime Complaint Center. That's ic3.gov.
I did that immediately. Actually, I called the FBI in San Francisco first in December. I called them because I don't like to fill out forms and not talk to humans. I want to be heard. So I called and I talked to a human officer, whatever he's there. He told me to fill the IC3. I then filled out the IC3. Then I got some more information about the scammer through a guy on TikTok who's stepped in to help because he saw my story and felt so bad. So he got his fingers involved in it, which was awesome. And so I filled out another IC3 form. And I called and talked to a human at the FBI again, which was like starting at square one because he didn't have a record that I called the first time, which is extremely frustrating. But to this day, I have not heard from the FBI.
No, that's, they get, I'm not making excuses for them, but they do get a lot of, people have gotten scammed over the years. What do you think were the top 3 mistakes that you made?
Well, the first mistake I made was not researching on Facebook. Actually, the guy so they stole identity from another person called Art by Fed. And Art by Fed, so that was their profile picture, one of his pieces. But I don't do anything like that on TikTok, so I didn't know you were supposed to look and see how many followers they have and how many views and that kind of thing. I don't know about that. That's foreign to me. And the Art by Fed guy said, why didn't you do your research? And it's like, why are you trying to make me feel worse than I already do? I get it now.
Right.
So that was the first thing. Now I know. The second thing was that tracking number. If they ask for a tracking number, it's because they need to intercept something. And then the next thing, of course, was the robotic voice.
Yeah, the robotic voice is all of that. But, I think we all have to remember that anytime that we're offered something free, nobody really wants to give us anything free in this world, right? Do they, Jocelyn?
No, they don't. But when you're talking to somebody who's grieving their husband,
of course,
it's just a lovely gesture. And I embrace everything. I try to embrace everything around me.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that you had to go through all of this. And but I'm so happy and proud of you that you have come on a national radio show and big time podcast to tell your story, so that this way more people won't be taken by these scammers. Jocelyn, once again, thank you for being with us. Now, obviously, losing a loved one is hard. It's very hard. Now, remember, you have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You don't go around. You can't go on top of it or underneath it. You actually have to walk through it. Now, there are resources online to help. For example, there's Grief Share. It's an online support group. The Compassionate Friends is an organization that provides support to families who have experienced the death of a child or a spouse. They also have online support groups and some grief resources. And then I want to tell you also about Widowed Village. It's an online community specifically designed for people who have lost a spouse. They have discussion forums, resources, articles, videos about how to cope with grief. Now, remember, it's so important to seek out support during this difficult time. And you always have to remember, when you're vulnerable, that's when the scammers are most likely to get after you. All right, the deadline for filing our 2023 taxes. I know it's not a happy topic, but we have to talk about it, all right? It happens. It's Tuesday, April 18th, just right around the corner. So scammers are ramping up their efforts as we get closer to the big day. So here are some tax scams to watch out for. The scammers are maybe advise you to use this form, 7202, credits for sick leave, family leave for certain self-employed individuals, and it goes on. Okay, it's a scheme. You don't want to do it. The hack involves inflating your income and then withholding figures so that you can get a larger refund. Okay, you don't want to do this. Now, if you try any of these tactics, you're going to get a penalty of like $5,000. Now, what about phone calls? You might get one that says, oh, this is the IRS, and we're going to come arrest you right now unless you pay us. And then they say, can you get us some gift cards? Yeah. Okay, first of all, the IRS is not going to call you, and they're not going to request gift cards. And by the way, anytime somebody wants you to pay them with a gift card, that's a huge red flag right there. And also we have scammers that are posing as tax preparers that will promise big tax refunds and write-offs, and they falsify all your documents. Get this, you're never going to get your money. That's just the way it is. Now, the IRS was working on a plan, just want to give you an update to this, that would say if you had $600 or more per year through a third-party payment processor, say something like PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, or Zelle, is that you had to report those earnings to the IRS. Okay, just last week they said, oh, we're sorry, we're not ready for all that right now. And we have more information about that. So you don't have to do it this year, but you're going to have to do it in 2024. So in case you need additional details about any of this, just hit the website, Komando.com. And then in the top right-hand corner, there's a link that says Kim's Show, and that's where you want to go ahead and check that out. All right, still to come, how to file your taxes on your tablet or iPhone, and also the secret map tracking wherever you go. And we have more of your great phone calls on the Kim Komando Today podcast. Hey, in case you're wondering if you can do your taxes on your phone or your tablet, absolutely. That answer is yes. All you need is to get the app, TaxSlayer, TurboTax, and H&R Block. They all allow you to file using your phone or your tablet. All right, back to the phones we go with Michelle in Great Bend, Kansas.
Hello, Kim.
Welcome. What's going on?
Well, I've been a fan of your show since you started in the 90s. I remember a coworker and I got hooked. Yeah, it's been a little while. Got hooked on your show back in the 90s. And I reference a lot of friends and family to your site because it's trustworthy. And currently, one of my sons is a waterfowl hunter, which waterfowl hunting includes decoys.
Okay.
Lots of them in order to trick the geese to land so you can hunt them. And, you know, it takes about 1,000 decoys to create a spread for a successful hunt.
Wow. Wait, did you say 1,000?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He owns about 1,500 decoys.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
They're not cheap. Yeah, they're not cheap. They're expensive. They're very realistic. Some of them are sock-like decoys, like to lure in snow geese. They're not the brightest, and so you can kind of use almost a trash bag with a little black on it.
No way, really?
Some of the other geese.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Geez.
Yeah. Some of the other geese, like Canadians and the white fronts, are a little more intelligent, and so you need a little more realistic-looking decoy, you know. And with this, he also does guided hunts. His concern and what he and I are trying to figure out is a reasonable and realistic solution to track these decoys, something that he could put in one of every 100 or one of every 50 in the event his trailer would get stolen or someone would break in to the facility where we steal the trailer and take these decoys. You know, that would be a lot of money to be out. We've thought about RFID tagging them that way, you know, should they be found, then the sheriff would say, hey, does this match your RFID system, you know, since that's a possible solution. But it doesn't help us really track where they are.
So let me ask you a question.
You know.
Well, first of all, RFID is probably not going to work because it has a limited range. And like you said, it's in a trailer. I'm afraid they're going to take the trailer and then off they go, right?
Right.
How much is a decoy?
So a box of 6 decoys is around $250 for a box of 6 decoys. So it's quite an investment that he has here.
That is something.
Yeah.
Does he use Android or Apple?
Apple.
Okay. First of all, on the trailer, I would put an Apple AirTag. I'd hide an Apple AirTag somewhere. Do you know what they are?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm familiar with Apple AirTags. Yeah.
I'm in love with them. I really am. I think they are so smart, so fabulous. I have them in my cars. I have in my wallet. But really, I think I should probably buy stock just in Apple because of the AirTags, because I think I probably I think I've put 20 on my husband. I mean, if I could put one on him, that would be even better. I mean, he's got them in his wallets. I noticed 2 wallets. Yes, 2 wallets in every one of his briefcases, in the boat bag, in his car, on his keys, because I got so tired of the guy saying, honey, do you know where my fill in the blank is? Okay.
I can relate.
Okay. So wherever that fill in the blank was, and even yesterday we were leaving a house, and because we sold a house, it's like a whole long story, but anyway. And he's like, oh, an alert came up and said, my wallet's gone 13 minutes ago. And I said, that's because your briefcase is in my car and you were in another car 13 minutes ago. But now that you're in my car, why don't you see if the wallet's here? And then we don't have to go looking for the wallet. But then it was so funny. It was so funny, Michelle, because then he's like, oh, wait, okay, so it has my bike. It has, and he was going through the whole list. I was like,
whole list.
Yes. So anyway, these Apple AirTags, if you go on Amazon, they make all these little holders for the AirTags now. And I have one on the dog, so you can put one on the dog too. And they have waterproof cases, and the batteries last for 2 years. So
wow.
And you can if you buy them on Amazon, they're more expensive, and also at Apple. But if you buy the AirTags at Costco or Sam's Club, you get like four for like sometimes $89 versus $100. So,
okay.
And then he can have all of these tied right into his iPhone, right into his account. He'll get a notification when one is missing. Like you said, do 1 out of the 6. But I think that's probably the best bet, because the RFID tags, they're not going to work. The NFC tags, they're not going to work too, because it has a limited range. And with these decoys being, far away, not within 5 to 10 feet, that we want to make sure that we have all of them tracked. Does that help you out today?
Yes, it certainly does. Thank you.
Well, you betcha, Michelle. If there's anything else I can lend a hand to, just know we're always here for you. And thank you for all your support of your programming and our website over the years. Now, you might be surprised that there are no decoys with chips built into them. I actually went looking for a few of them. Now, there are some hunting apps that can help you track your decoy's location using your smartphone's GPS, though. So, for example, there's something called the Ducker app. That's DUCKR. It allows you to mark the locations of your decoys on a map. And then there's another app called HuntWise, and it helps you navigate to your hunting spot to mark the location of your decoys. I'm telling you, there is truly an app to do just about anything. Isn't that crazy? Hey, I just want to remind you that if you're not already following us on social media, what are you waiting for? And please don't ghost us. You can find us everywhere at Kim Komando. So whether you're on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, wherever you're heading out, remember, we're always at Kim Komando. And Instagram, by the way, is the place where I post a lot of personal stuff. And so if you want to check that out, that's Instagram.com/Kim Komando. All right. First of all, you're not being paranoid. You are being tracked. And you want to take a look at the secret map on your smartphone that is truly taking note of every move that you make. So here's the deal. If you ever wondered how your iPhone automatically pulls up directions when you get in the car, that's because of something called significant locations, which is basically a map of your whereabouts. Now, to check it out yourself, you can go to your iPhone settings, and you have to drill down a little bit. It's called significant locations. You can do a search for that as well, significant locations, although we have the steps over at Komando.com too. And there you're going to see a list of everywhere that you visited. Now, the location is not always 100% precise, but it's still pretty creepy. You get to see all the places that you'd like to go. Now, if you're sitting there saying, well, Kim, that's Apple. I'm on Android. I don't have such a map. Well, you would be wrong, 1,000% wrong. If you're on Android, just go to your settings app, and then you want to select location and enable location services to view your location data history and see which apps have requested access to your location, which is also something to do from time to time. When you're sitting there and you're streaming something you're not really into, just open your phone and start looking at your app's permissions, and I bet you'll be surprised who actually has access to your location or even your microphone. Now, here's the deal. If you learn just one thing with this Kim Komando show, you have to tell 3 friends about the show, because after all, knowledge is power. You can find me at Komando.com.
This program is a copyrighted production of Westar Multimedia Entertainment and protected by the copyright laws. Any rebroadcast or use of this program for commercial, business, economic, or financial purposes without the written permission of Westar Multimedia Entertainment is strictly prohibited.